I don't show you where I was, if I say I was in Venda and I don't show it to you, you're gonna complain and say, but I wanted to see Venda and everything else. So I thought, you know what? I'll do part of the review over there and then part of it on the way, and then I'll just see how to put it together, guys. It's gonna be difficult, but you know what? Today, okay, you know that meme that says a few moments later? That's what we are dealing with right now, because yeah, it's around, what is this, 17 minutes to 6 p.m. now, and as you can see, a different place all together. So now I'm going back to Pretoria, and I'm with Uncle, you know, people say I don't, you know, you never say anything on, just greet the people for once. For once. Just greet the people.
How can I say well? How can I start?
You see, guys, you're making Uncle to be shy, but otherwise I'm with my sister, I'm with my son at the back as well, and probably some feedback, as I've told you before, that I had some rattling stuff in here. I think these are some of the things that you can avoid. And as much as they have this agility control suspension, which I think is your typical McPherson in front and multi-link at the back, those are expected in cars like this, of course, because then the independence of the suspension in the rear, it's actually assisting with the comfort, and it's really tuned for comfort like that. Spoke about the 19-inch rims that are here, should I say the tires in this case, because they contribute to the comfort as well. 245, 45, which again, I did say that it's not necessarily low profile per se, but when I'm thinking about 245, it's a thick tire, so it's actually supporting the comfort levels. But the length of the car and just how this car is, there's just so many moving parts in this vehicle. I mean, you get seats that are moving, you get, I mean, the doors that are just, you know, sliding and everything else. Seats as well. Actually, they're sliding as well, as much as I'm saying they're moving. So there's just so many moving parts that it's almost impossible to avoid the rattling that you get in vehicles like this. I mean, these are buses, these are big buses. So from that perspective, I think you can avoid that altogether. Just that the one that I complained about, it's on the left door, which I feel like sometimes on gravel it does rattle a bit, and it's probably because of the unit, and probably again, I don't know, maybe someone touched the door and then the handle just got a little bit loose in a way, because when you're opening the doors you just need to pull it once and let it be. But if you kept forcing it to open and so on, it might just lead up to that. But overall, on gravel like this, it's not meant to be a gravel test altogether. I'm forced by circumstances because I just left home now. We were here to pick up my boy so that we can be able to go back to Pretoria. But these are the roads that I need to use to actually get back to the highway. So it gives me a great opportunity to talk about the comfort levels in here, because in the Venda part, I think it was just a little bit more playful in how we've done things, how we were just, you know, vlogging and everything else. But I want this to actually be focused on the vehicle, because these are the parts that I think that we all know. I mean, if you've watched this channel before, we've done this before on should I say, while we are here in Matox. So you can hear right now that there are rattles. Like I said, I'm expecting them because there's a lot of moving parts, and I'm doing like what, 30 kilometers per hour, 33 now, and I'm sure if I do like 60 or so, it's going to be a little bit worse. But I don't feel the need to do that, because this is not necessarily off-road, or rather gravel orientated. So I know that people as well have been saying that, man, your gravel tests and so on, please do this and that. Guys, I don't do every car there because I don't believe that every car is made for that. Just that you do get some cars where people are buying them and they stay in rural areas and they need to actually also buy. So because of that, then I need to incorporate those elements. But if a car is not off-road orientated, I don't see the need to actually take it to gravel, and also complain when it doesn't necessarily do well on gravel. Again, this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It's not a 4MATIC, but on gravel like this, I'm not finding it to be I can't complain about it because I'm not expecting that everyone is going to be driving fast in this car on gravel. Okay, let's get to the N1. Now we are headed to Polokwane. Okay, this stop gives us an opportunity to talk about the powertrain in here, because this thing is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged diesel engine that is giving us a whooping, should I say whooping though, 174 kilowatts, 500 Newton meters of torque, and you would have seen that. What is happening, mommy? You would have seen that the previous, I don't know whether to call it a previous generation, it's not a previous generation, but the pre-facelift one, you would have seen that it is looking, or rather you have 550 Newton meters of torque from the same engine with 174 kilowatts. So you have to, should I say, that lady disturbed me, it's fine. Okay, I'm doing much more than I'm supposed to. Okay, the pre-facelift, we're talking 174, 550 Newton meters of torque. I don't know why it was reduced, but maybe it's because it's not necessary. Because even with this one, with 500 Newton meters, still pretty much enough. You can still get 0 to 100 in less than 10. So from that perspective, I guess it doesn't really change much. But for those that are crying for the 50 Newton meters, maybe you'll tell me why, because it does actually feel like enough. I mean, when we were coming back now, because you did see in the other part that we were actually in Venda, we had like almost a full house of people, because the configuration that is here is a 7-seater one, and I think we were what, 5, but I'm talking like people that actually justify the weight levels of this vehicle. So because of that, I can say it handled it so well. I didn't find that the power is not sufficient, especially when you are pulling it, whether the slope is going up or it's just level. I found it to be actually very sufficient to pick up. Just that, of course, again, when you're driving with elder people and so on, you don't necessarily need to just be punching this thing throughout. But everything else, the powertrain, man, the engine, the marriage that it has with this 9G-tronic, you can never really go wrong. This pairing, we've known it, I mean, from way back. We've driven cars that has this pairing, and we never complained about this transmission. One thing that I can say is that when you get to the tar road like this, man, settling down is not an issue in here. And that is surprising, because it's a long car. You're expecting that it will actually be making a lot of wind noise and everything else. Surprisingly, I'm expecting wind noise from the top of the window sometimes, and you get it from the mirror and so on. But with this car, it's coming from down there, and I think it has to do with the sliding doors. And it depends. It's not on all surfaces, and also it's not in all directions, because sometimes it matters as to how or where the wind is blowing. That's what I've realized, or that's what I've picked up with some of these cars when it comes to wind noise and everything else that comes with that. But once you are inside, comfort level, the suspension is managing it very well. And it's actually very surprising just how good it's managing it on this tar road. I'm not talking about gravel, because we've already spoken about what's happening on gravel. But right now, the seamless integration of insulation and everything else that you feel in terms of the suspension, the tires as well. I think it's sitting on Continental Contact Sport 6 or something like that. I'll just confirm. But hey, look, they're doing a great job in fitting everything, in-cabin noises and everything else. I can't complain at all. This thing is actually very comfortable for a big car like this, and that's probably one of the biggest selling points that it has, because the pricing, when you're looking at it, there's a lot that it comes with as standard, and the V300d itself, it's supposed to be the top spec, right? In that case, you know that when you're buying it, you're getting almost everything. And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what is happening here, because the features, everything else. Why is this thing telling me to turn? Where are you going? The navigator. Let me cancel this because I know where I'm going now. I just pray there's no traffic, so there's no need for that. So when it comes to the features and everything else, this thing is actually packed enough, and that's something that is impressive for me, because when you look at the price list for this thing, think the price itself, the actual price is around 2.250. I said 2.3 before, but yeah, round up and everything else at 2.250. And then with this spec, when you're looking at the leather that is in here, the beige one, it's not an option that you need to pay for. You just need to say that I need the beige one instead of the white and the black one. But I think I'd still take it with black. What I haven't seen so far is whether they can give you these luxury seats that are in here with they can give you in black. I don't know about that, but if they can come in black, I think it will also be amazing to actually have it in black. The reason I'm saying this is because it depends. The people that are buying this for business, the people that are buying this for family, and they have young kids, this beige, it's, you know, when you look closely, right, this leather, it's showing some dark spots here and there based on the places where it's frequented, where you are sitting, where like the hands are touching all the time. You can see that over time it might suffer. So because of that, I think the black one will make a lot of sense. In terms of speccing it, yes, for business purposes, I mean, an 8-seater is always going to be better than the 7 seats. But when I'm looking at just how good it looks, how great it feels to be on those seats as well, the luxury ones, yes, I'm looking at the fact that they're going to add almost 200,000, because one of them is like 95,000 and a change. I think 95,800 rands or so. So because of that, I think it's going to add a little bit of, you know, depending on how stretched you are from that 250. But if you can do it, I think you need to do it, because it does actually change the whole feel of this vehicle. Yes, Mercedes is calling it first class. I'm calling it business class, like I said, because there's a lot that you can get from the seats. I mean, you get heated seats, ventilated as well. You can just recline, do anything that you want to do there, get massage from them and so on. So there's a lot that you're getting from the seat. As to whether it's worth all the trouble, from comfort perspective, I think it is. But from price perspective, maybe that's where I'm like, no, maybe you don't need it, because even with the 3.3 configuration, that is still all right. It's still pretty much enough, and that's what I've seen with a lot of people that they're doing with this vehicle as well. Then we have to focus on overall practicality in this. I'm pretty much impressed. I've seen that normally you don't get like a lot of charging points when it comes to vehicles like this, but in this one, I mean, the 2 USB chargers that are in front here, then on the seats, that lux seats as well, you do get two USB chargers, should I say ports in this case, so that you can be able to charge. It looks like the seat looks like it has like wireless charging in it, but that's just a pad, I think, to just put the phone and everything else. But also you do get the cup holders at the back, the same that you can get in front here, just that they are a little bit too low for me, because you always need to reach from down up, and I feel like you're looking down instead of actually looking at the road. That's just something that probably I can complain about as well. Then when you go to the back, you'll see that almost everyone has their own cup holders, except of course for the middle seat in the premium economy seats, which are the back seats ones, the ones that I rated them. Because remember, in the previous video I did say that that is premium economy. The second one, the one that Mercedes is calling a first class, I'll call business class, and then this is the cockpit. Of course, I don't need to explain what this is. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about that. Hey, look, from practicality point of view, I was complaining, thinking that the space is not sufficient, because I was thinking, man, once you have these seats in a position where you can recline them and you can extend your feet and actually like sit like that and so on, stretch your legs, I thought there is not enough space. But I had not realized that you can slide the seats forward and back so that you can control whether you need more boot space or whether you need more leg room in the car. So they've done a great job with that. In fact, that is wonderful, because I believe that with all the V-Class, that's what you are getting as well. And that is great because you can easily control how much space you need at the back based on where you're traveling and who you're traveling with. Because sometimes you just have people with like little bags and so on, and they need more leg room to just play around in the car, do whatever that they need to do. With that, then you know that you can just stretch them all the way to the back. Then in that space at the back, it depends as well, because with this one it doesn't have the shelf. There's this rear shelf that you get with the V-Class, and in that then it can be able to separate and you get an actual boot like an SUV. I like that. I think it should have been here, because one of the issues that I have is that the stuff that you have in there, I feel like it can just easily slide. Let's say you have a ball or whatever for kids, you can just find it in here. And that's one thing that I'll always complain about MPVs like this, because they are like taxis, you know, typical Quantum. When you have something like that, you have nothing to just separate, like a net that separates from the back and so on. So that shelf would have helped as well to separate, because once you have that, you can easily put them on top of the shelf, and then you'll be able to manage everything else in the boot like that. So this one is not spec'd with it. I don't want to say spec'd, or I don't know if it's removed, but yeah, it's currently we are actually going. So this is the pickup that you get in the V-Class. Yep, told you it's not lazy. I told you that it's not lazy at all. And it's always impressive just being able to move this thing like this, man. It's it's so impressive. But yeah, back to that practicality front. I think from that perspective, if you also have the trailer hook, then you'll probably have the best of everything that you need, because I'm not a big favor of putting a roof rack and together with the, what is this thing now, the Thule box, or Mercedes box in this case, of course, the what do they call that box that you put on top of the vehicle? Because now you're eating up the height and everything else. This thing is already measuring just, I think, just close to 1.9 meters, and in most places you need just 2.1 and then you're out. So with that roof thing, I always ask myself, where am I going to park this thing? Can't even put it in the garage and everything else. So from that perspective, nah, I'd rather get a trailer, especially if you're looking at having a business with this vehicle as well. Why are you on my tail, man? Audi, why? Okay, so yeah, basically those are the things that I think, for me, practicality wise, this thing is well sorted. I mean, yeah, I can't even complain much in terms of how practical it is. They've spaces as well. I said this before in the other video as well, that I think someone bigger than me can still manage this thing very well. I feel like this side for me, it's a little bit far. I said that already. I don't want to repeat the stuff that I've said in there, because in there I was trying as much as possible, mainly to show you the place, and then at the same time, guys, I'm going. And then I'm gonna say, hey, fuel consumption, this and that. Look, it's not something that is sporty in any way. But if you ever think that you're just gonna push it easily out of the way, that's where you'll be wrong. That's where you'll be wrong. But there will be a lot of cars that can easily take you on, especially if it's packed. You have 8 people in here or 7 people in here with bags. Of course, the performance is going to be impacted from there on. But otherwise, even with all of this, and the driving style and everything else hasn't been that different over the last 850 kilometers. From start right now, it says we're carrying 9 liters to 100 kilometers, and Mercedes is saying this thing can average 8.3 to 100, and I can confirm that it does that. They said 8 liters and we are averaging 8.3, so I can confirm that it's not actually far off, because over the 854 kilometers that we've done so far, it's actually been like around 8. And from that perspective, I think I'm pretty much impressed. Even now, it's like half tank. We're gonna get to Pretoria, believe it or not. It says 400 kilometers or so, and where we are, it's like 3. I think right now we're probably sitting at 310 to get to Pretoria. So I think from that perspective, man, there's a lot of hard work that they've done with the engineering when it comes to this vehicle. And yeah, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a need to complain about this vehicle in terms of the price and everything else, because all other MPVs, of course, they are bringing a different perspective in terms of how this whole experience is coming, the business travel experience and everything else. But this is always those ones that you look at and you just know that there's a lot that was done right. There's a lot that was done right. Even if you can complain about the price and everything else, there's a reason why this thing is selling. And I said I'm going to check whether you can only get the V300d when it comes to this particular one, this one that people are asking whether it's a Maybach one, and the facelift one that we are sitting with. I keep calling it a facelift, guys. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. So with that said, I think for me, that's where you will find the V300d only. I don't know what's happening. If 220 is still coming, if 250 is still coming, I don't know about that. But yeah, I guess we can confirm at a later stage as well. And look, when it comes to that, I think I understand why Mercedes had to probably start with the 300d, because even on the road, 300d is something that is way more present than the others, as much as they're there. But I think there's a lot of respect that comes with the 300d that they've seen, and people are picking them up more than anything else, despite the price point, because you can still pick up the previous versions you can find good ones. By that I mean like very low mileage demos and so on, at around 1.8 million. You're still gonna save a lot of money, and of course you're not gonna get an interior like this one, but you're still gonna get almost everything else that this car offers, depending on how it's spec'd. And that's something that I like about it, because when you look at it overall, man, they've just done something amazing. I mean, the Alcantara here, it's something that you don't see every day in cars. Yes, you do get black roof liners and everything else, but putting Alcantara all the way to the back, and you get these 2 panoramic sunroofs as well. One is opening, of course. Those are the things for me that are just adding to just how great they've managed to capture this thing, man. I mean, I've spoken already about the interior in terms of the design, but look, the quality as well. You remember that in the new Mercedes, like that you get this panel that is like floating on the side of this door panel here overall. This one is inserted inside, so it's avoiding that plastic feel that we always get, and in most areas as well you don't get that. I'm just worried about frequented areas, and especially if you don't tell your people that they need to make sure that they don't touch the doors, just use the buttons rather, because that's where wear and tear is likely going to happen, and you're not gonna like that because of that. Then one other issue that I have is, if you go to places that are dusty, people are coming in with like what are you doing? Come on. Okay, people are coming in with shoes that have dust and some particles of soil and so on. The rails, they are like exposed So when you're sweeping the car or when you're doing anything like that, because not everyone has a hoover just moving around with it, that's where then in the rails you end up having those, like the dirt and everything else. I don't know what Mercedes can do to actually avoid that, but please, if there's a way, maybe they need to do it, because yeah, no, I don't know if that is a good thing. I mean, overall, you don't want to be having seats that are stuck in one place because there's a lot of dirt in there. Otherwise, just hoover it immediately after transporting like a lot of people, and you find that maybe there's dirt, so that it doesn't go in the rails, and you find that maybe you need to do something about it at a later stage. It can be very costly. I'm pretty sure of that. It can be very costly. I'm trying to think, what didn't I tell you about this vehicle when it comes to the review itself? Because look, this I'm trying to make this part as formal review as possible. Look, you may ask yourself, why am I not talking about the interior, exterior and everything else? Because I've already done that with the other part. So because of that, I thought, there's no need for me to be telling you about the same things over and over. I love how it looks. You guys don't like the monoblock. I can tell you right now, you can even check on some of the websites. I've seen some of these V300s, the ones that are looking like this, with different rims that look like those ones that are from the old one, because those ones, people love them anyway, and you can still get them in the same 19-inch 45, 245, 45, 19. You can still get those ones. So I don't think that's a big train smash. I've already complained about this monoblock look, especially in relation to this high-tech silver. I did say that I love it in that, I think they call it Kalahari Gold or something like that. I would take it any day with the monoblock. But in other colors, I find it to be a little bit challenging. But the red and the blue probably are the ones that I can say, yeah. I know probably they're calling them different, what do they say this now? Paints in terms of the luxury paint terms, whatever that they are using. But guys, I'm almost in Polokwane now, and I'm going to be done with the review of the V-Class overall. Maybe just before I leave you guys, the reflection on just how the trip has been so far. I think everyone has given this vehicle a nod. They've all agreed that we're dealing with a fantastic vehicle here, and everyone that got in, because of the interior spec that is here, they were like, wow. I mean, everyone just want to be in here. That's the thing. If you get a chance to get in, they want to do it, and just let's go somewhere. And of course you can't take everyone somewhere. So, but because of that, I think it's just something that you can't ignore, man. This thing is an eye turner. It's an attention grabber. Sometimes way more too much than you want, especially if you find yourself in areas where maybe they don't see a lot of these vehicles. So because of that, of course, you're like, it's a little bit embarrassing. Plus this, the front windows are a little bit exposed compared to the rear ones, because those are privacy glasses. Because of that, then it's a little bit easier. But overall, guys, with the exterior, you will see that there's a lot of chrome use as well from the front. When you look at the window trims as well, from the rear as well, when you look at that window trim as well, the way it is, I love how it looks. By the way, the V-Class, every time I look at the exterior, I always loved it, because when you look at the Vitos, for example, this the window is like quite high, and it doesn't have this nice trim that they put there. By the way, you can also open that. When I was talking about some of the features, I didn't actually mention that you can open the boot overall, like with the key, or you can use like the thingy, and what is this, the handle, whatever that is, to open it. It's an electronic one, but because it's too long, you don't always need to do that. You can open the glass itself so that you can put the stuff in there. But I feel like it's a little bit delicate, and I wouldn't want to do that all the time. If it's mine, I wouldn't even want anyone to actually keep opening the glass part of it. I would rather open it here and there, but overall I would just open the full boot and let people put their stuff in there. That's one thing that probably is a little bit delicate, that I'm feeling that yeah, it needs to be managed. Another thing that I'm actually forgetting right now, it's the rear view. I don't know if it's just me, but having the 3 headrests at the back, it doesn't leave more room for me to actually see, especially at night. I'm not complaining now as I'm driving, because I can say to myself that I can see right now. But at night it gets a little bit challenging, especially because this mirror is dimmed. Yes, I can turn it off, but if everyone is dazzling me and everything else, I don't really want to do that. So because of that, I'm like, no man, it can hide a whole car, that thing. And it happened once where I was driving and it was hiding a car. I was trying to luckily this thing helped me, this blind spot monitoring, it helped me a lot. Talking about that, advanced driving features that are in here, man, you do get the adaptive cruise control. Of course, if I set it now, you'll see that of course it's here. And adaptive, one thing that I've said before in Mercedes cars is that when you press this, it tells you that you can purchase it at a later stage, but this one comes with its standard. One thing that probably I did not like that much, it's the lane keep assist, because I didn't feel like it is centering. I don't know if it was just me, the way that I'm driving, but when I turn it on, and I couldn't find one button that is going to help me to just turn it on immediately and then I have lane keep assist. No, I have to go into the settings, get there, and then say assistance, collision avoidance. Then I can say active lane keep assist. Then that's when I do have something from it. But if it wasn't for that, let me just get it. I'm squeezing. Thank you. Okay, let me put it on cruise control and see. You see, I don't feel like it's bringing me back. I feel like it's just telling me that I need to get back in lane, but it's not pulling me back. It's not centering. I don't know. It's leaving the lane, literally. It's just gonna be vibrating right now. Oh, let me turn off cruise control in case it picks this as an obstacle and I have issues right now. Because hey, these systems. But hey, look, that's probably one of the things that I did not like that much. But when it comes to everything else and how it functions, I'm finding it to be like assisting a lot, because you do have necessary vision and everything else. I told you that I don't like this traffic sign assist, and if I can just turn it off, nah, I don't even know. I don't even think it's necessary, because I told you that I don't like it. But overall, when it comes to comfort levels and everything else, you will see that even for the people at the back, they do actually get their own aircon controls, the same way that you do get in front here. You can put it on auto, get your own controls. At the back as well, they can do the same, and you'll feel the air blowing all the way to the back. I saw that there are vents like all over, even on the ground there. Like, should I say the ground? I don't even know what to call it, but yeah, on the surface here, you also get some air vents that are blowing into the cabin, so it's really easy to actually get enough air. It doesn't feel claustrophobic in here at all. And from that perspective, guys, when people are just coming in and get distracted, I don't know why. And that's one of the competitors as well, which we'll talk about in a few, because I'm in Polokwane now and I'm gonna cut this video at some point, because otherwise it's gonna be too long. I've been talking from home to Polokwane, just how crazy this thing is. In terms of the spec level and everything else, guys, I don't think there's anything more that I can indicate that you don't know from Mercedes. It has almost everything that you need from Mercedes. I think this thing can pack itself. The camera systems in here are great as well. The navigation as well. I love Mercedes navigation, by the way, because it's also live navigation, so you can be able to get traffic and everything else. One of the best, just that this one doesn't have augmented reality, but overall maneuverability of everything else due to size, I love that about it. But like I said, I spoke about the competition before, and I think it's important to think about that, and I'm gonna say this again. I did not miss. I'm seeing this blue light Ford, the Tornado Custom, I think. Well, I can call it a competitor, but the reality is that it does actually look like an industrial kind of a vehicle. Yes, I've seen people buying it to use it for personal use and everything else, but yeah, for me it looks a little bit too business. Like it's a little bit too business. That's how I feel about it. Then we have the Staria. I think the Staria as well is doing well in business. It's a good competitor for business, but for personal use, I'm not seeing a lot of people buying those, which I think, yeah, it's one of those things that people probably just prefer it for price, especially in business, because it makes sense for luxury travel as well. Then the Quantum VX, you're not going to see that every day, of course. And again, I don't even remember seeing a lot of them. In fact, I don't even remember seeing anyone where someone just bought it for personal use, unless if it's for business and everything else. So from that perspective, I think it lives, there's not a lot of cars that you're going to find that are MPVs. Maybe there will be more brands that are looking into this. I've seen like Volvo has something. I don't know if it's going to come to South Africa as well. It looks amazing, by the way. But overall, it's not a lot of cars that you're going to find in this segment. I will just probably think about it from the pricing perspective and say, overall, what I've said before stands. The fact is, this car can buy two of those cars that I've just mentioned now. And when you're in business, there's a lot of sense with that. But the reality is, people are booking businesses that are driving V-classes, and they are specific that we want a V-class. They don't want anything else. They want the V-class. And that's something that you always need to take care of, because when there's a wedding, funerals and everything else, people want the V-class, and there's a reason for that. That's why I think the competition then works out. Overall, though, you can see ambient lighting and everything else. Those are the stuff that we're going to talk about in the night review. But I think I've covered you enough. I've showed you how this thing drives. Now probably it's time to just close it off with the Burmester, right? The Burmester sound system that is in here, 15 speakers. I think it has max output of 640 watts. And overall, I don't think it's the best sound system compared to the GLC, for example, the 4D that we tested in the E-Class as well. The GLC for me is the best setup in terms of balance and everything else. The GLC is the one, it's close to my heart. This one, you can feel that actually I have a big room, and I do feel that at the far end they're probably experiencing the sound a little bit more differently, because the sub is there. You can feel that it's more punchy and everything else, then it's moving towards the front in this case. From that perspective, that's how I'm experiencing the sound system. But let's stop talking, because we've been talking for too long, and play this sound system. Amen. Can you hear how just listen to this engine, man, and how it's settling down before I even talk sound system. Doesn't make noise, huh? Let's do 120, just sitting below 2000 RPM. That's how good this engine is. Not overwaking, nothing. Just, man, this engine, I love this engine. yeah, that's how it sounds. Like I said, it's not necessarily the best, but that doesn't mean that it's weak at the same time, because it does actually make sure that it reduces like all the exterior noises that are coming in and so on. Like I said, there's a bit of wind noise. It depends where you're driving, but on smooth surfaces like this, you don't find that you're getting a lot of exterior noises, whether from the road, whether from the engine as well, because this, for some reason, the insulation is quite good when you're traveling in this. This is actually a very good travel companion. And I have to say, I didn't talk about the biggest competition, which is also appearing a lot more on the road, and that is the VW Caravelle. I've been challenged also in other social media platforms that, you know what, maybe it is better than this one, but according to me, it is not. It's starting, if you want the T6, I think the Highline 146 kilowatts, the 4Motion, which is a great thing that is a 4-wheel drive. But hey, listen, to me, I really don't think the Caravelle is better than this one. Even if you're getting the top spec 1.6 million, you can spec it, I think, just above 1.6 towards 1.7 million. And yeah, for me, I still think the V-Class is better. I understand that from 1.6 jumping to 2.3 and even potentially 2.5 million, then we're talking about a lot of money. I mean, 900,000 is not a joke, but at the same time, I'm thinking that probably we're looking at two different classes here, especially when I'm comparing the difference between what I would regard as premium travel and business travel. And I believe that this is taking that part of the business side of things, because when I'm talking luxury travel in MPVs, vehicles that are like this, I really think this is currently uncomparable, man. There's just I understand that there's a lot of them out there that are gonna give you probably the same feedback, and people who probably the tourists that want to travel in premium travel and everything else, they can still find a good way to travel in a Caravelle, in a Quantum VX, in any other, basically the Hyundai Staria and so on. But the V-Class, it's just in a class of its own. That's just my view about it, and it's been really great on this journey. I can't complain about much, guys. The rest, I guess we'll talk about in the comments. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Really appreciate you, and I am out driving into the sunset.